Hello everyone, this is Swapna from Magic Paper Pixie. I hope all of you are doing well and staying safe. For today's video, I have some very simple cards for you but with an ethnic twist. So I've decided to make 3 simple cards for today's video using some Indian colors and Indian theme design which might be perfect for you to give to someone for some Indian festive occasions or for any celebrations rather. So the first card that we will be making is with a stamp set called Indian Wedding by Craft Angle. This is a very beautiful and intricate stamp set. There you can see the bride and the bridegroom in the stamp set who are performing the rituals around the sacred fire. So I decided to stamp this stamp set using a Misty on a Copic friendly cardstock. Once I stamped the image and I got a crisp, clear image, I decided to just to give it a little bit more shine to the image, I decided to use some clear embossing powder on top of my black memento ink just to give it a little bit of a glossy effect. But if I must give you a fair warning that if you're planning to use Copics on top of embossed images, please make sure or please be wary that the Copic tips can get damaged because of the embossing powder. So please do take care. I have done some basic Copic coloring for this image. I wanted to color this image in more festive colors. But I didn't want to make the lehenga or the dress of the bride red. So I decided to go with a different color this time because from what I see around, I think all these colored lehengas are quite the rage. So I decided to give our little bride a little makeover with a green colored lehenga. I took quite a while to color the image, so I have sped up the process of coloring the image since it would be a little long and repetitive. Once I finished coloring the image, I added some silver dots on top of the lehenga of the bride with a silver gel pen. And then fussy cut this image. I earlier planned to keep the card single layered, for which I thought I'll give a watercolored background, but while making the card I thought I wanted to give it a darker background, so I decided to fussy cut the image completely and then adhere it on top of a dark background. Now since I wanted to use a dark background, I thought of mimicking the night sky. A lot of weddings in the northern part of India usually happen at night, so I thought maybe I will give this card a little bit of twist and try to mimic a night sky in the background where the couple are taking fairas. So for the night sky, I wanted to show some fireworks in the background, so I decided to use a fireworks stamp set that I had in my stash and embossed it with golden embossing powder from Ranger on the background. I tried to place the image on top of the cardstock to ensure that I'm not completely covering up the fireworks image. And once I heat set the fireworks image, I was quite happy with the result because it looked exactly like I was hoping it would. Here I'm trying to see how I would place the image in front of the embossed fireworks image. Also, I wanted to see where I could place a sentiment on top of this card, since I wanted a sentiment to be somewhere in the front panel of the card. So I chose the sentiment from the same stamp set called On Your Special Day and decided to heat emboss this as well with some golden embossing powder. Once my stamped sentiment and images were heat set, I decided to go in with a blending brush and some Distress Oxide Black Soot ink just to give it a little more depth to the card so that it actually looks like a night sky. You can also rub away the extra ink which might have smudged over the embossed fireworks or the sentiment or any embossed image with a clean dry tissue paper. Once I liked how the image looked in front of the fireworks, I adhered the fussy cut image with the help of some double-sided tape before adhering it on a gold mirror cardstock and finally onto a top folding A2 size note card. I really like how this card turned out. Though it is not a very conventional light background card, it somehow gives a very nice effect, and I think all the colors pop out pretty well. I finally adhered some jewels and sequins to the card just to give it a more finished look. I hope you like my take on this wedding card. My second card is also a very simple card for which I'll be using this stamp set of Ganpati by Craftangles again. The stamp set is called Ganpati Bappa, and this is a beautiful stamp set and one of my most adored stamps. So let's get started with the second card. So for the second card, I'm simply stamping this image on a Copic friendly cardstock with the help of my Misty and with some Memento Blank ink. Once I make sure that this image is stamped crisply and is pretty clear, I just take out my Copics and start coloring the image. The coloring process in this video is pretty basic, that's why I sped up the video just to ensure that the video is not very long and repetitive because of the coloring. Once I was happy with the coloring of the image, I just went over the stamped image with the micron pen just to ensure that all the outlines are more defined. I then took a masking paper and stamped the same image with the help of the Misty on this masking paper. Once I was happy with the stamped image on the masking paper, I went ahead and fussy cut this image. I went along the edges of the image since I wanted to use this as a mask for the card. I peeled off the release paper from the masking paper and pasted the mask on top of the Ganesha image. My idea was to mask the image since I wanted to give a stencil background for this card, and I didn't want the ink blending to spoil the image of Ganpati, which I wanted to be in the center. For this card, the stencil that I have used is called Antique Lace. I placed the stencil on top of the masked image and was planning to do some basic ink blending. While I placed the stencil on the image, I realized there are certain gaps within the circle in the center wherein the color could get smudged because I wanted the circle around to maintain its shape. So I cut a small circle with my extra cardstock and placed it in the center before ink blending across the card. So I used distress inks, that is wild honey and spice marmalade, just to give it a little bit of a blended look around. And finally, once I was happy with the blending, I peeled off the mask from the stamped image of Ganpati. And so you can see the image is completely untouched, though I spotted a few smudges which we can correct later while making the final card with some blending, or you can put up some sequins. I decided to go over the edges of the card with some spiced marmalade ink before stamping the sentiment on the card, Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Once I was happy with the card, I decided to adhere it on top of a gold mirror cardstock before finally adhering it to my A2 card base. I really like how this card has turned out. It's quite bright and vibrant. I would definitely be adding some jewels and sequins just to give it a more finished look. Also, whenever I cut a masking paper for a particular stamp, I store it with the stamp since it can be used maybe one more time if there is some more stickiness to that stamping paper. Here I am finally adhering some jewels just to give a finished look to the card. Do let me know how you like this card. For my third card, I will be using simply just two supplies mainly, that is a stencil and the cardstock. I will just be doing some basic ink blending on the cardstock for this particular card, though I have used a die cut to cut out the background panel of the card. This stencil is called 4-leaf lace by Craftangles and it's a very beautiful stencil. Once I adhere the stencil to the cardstock with the help of some washi tape, I have done some very basic ink blending with the help of these blending brushes. I have used some dye inks that were in my stash, mainly with the colors of dark pink, orange and yellow, just to give it a more festive look. Now the lighter colors are towards the outside part of the card panel. And I have done some very basic ink blending. I really didn't have to do much because the stencil in itself is so pretty that I wanted to maintain the simplicity of the card because it really looked pretty as it is. Once I was happy with the ink blending, I took off the stencil and you can see the result that I really didn't have to do anything else to this card. It just looked beautiful as it is. I then decided to adhere this card on top of a craft note card or a craft cardstock rather before adhering it to my A2 card base. I somehow liked the combination of brown along with the yellows and oranges, so I decided to adhere a craft cardstock in addition to the white base. I also decided to stamp a simple sentiment called "You Are Amazing." That is one of the stamp sets that I had in my stash. I simply decided to stamp it in black ink on top of the card. As you can see, I kind of used an acrylic block to stamp the sentiment and I kind of smudged it here and there. But no worries, we can fix it always with the help of micron pen or a white glue pen or adhere some jewels and sequences just to hide a small little mistakes. And I believe that these small little imperfections make handmade cards really unique and more special. Please do let me know how you like these cards. Here are a few more close-up images of the cards that we made today. If you haven't already, do not forget to subscribe to this channel for more ideas and inspiration. Until later, take care, stay safe and happy crafting.